How's everybody doing? It's going to be a fun evening in Sacktown. We got the Kings, we got the Pacers. Halliburton is in, Buddy Hield is in, Sabonis going against his old mates. Both teams playing very well. Probably the two biggest surprises in their respective conferences. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to break it all down with Jerry Reynolds coming up in just a moment. Yes, indeed. Holy moly. Jim Bob Bowley joins me. Jerry, how's your week been, buddy? It's good to see you.
That's good. Had a good weekend and good holiday. And boy, it's great to be with you. Nothing better than talking to Grant Napier about basketball.
All right. We'll get to tonight's game in a moment. Let's back up a little bit. After winning 7 in a row, the Kings have now dropped 3 straight. One of those games was at Boston, which to me right now is the best team in the NBA. So I don't really, Atlanta was on the second of a back-to-back. You can make an excuse there. Then they lose coming back home the other night to Phoenix. And I thought the Phoenix game was extremely entertaining, Jerry. I don't think Fox is 100% right now. I think he's being bothered by, some ailments. But that was a hell of a game. And, Devin Booker was Devin Booker, Jerry.
Yeah, basically it just came down to the fact that Devin Booker is the best player on the floor, and he had one of his best games, which he's capable of. I've always said Booker kind of reminds me of a kind of a junior version of Kobe Bryant. Just a marvelous one-on-one player that can get to the mid-range games, and he's unstoppable a lot of times. I thought Davion made it fairly tough on him in stretches, but that's really about the only thing you can do. But yeah, hey, at the end of the day, as the Kings lost to the best team in basketball, Boston, and they lost to the best team in the West right now in Phoenix, and certainly Boston was decisive at the end. But Atlanta's also a very, very good team.
Yes, they are.
And they beat a good team in Memphis. So, basically for those that are kind of like, oh, geez, what's going on? It's like, well. Hey, they're in every game, and it's been a long time since Kings had a team that really had a chance to win every game they played.
I did a post-game show after the Phoenix contest right here. I got to tell you, I was really disappointed with a lot of the fans who were so hard on De'Aaron Fox. Fox, to me, without Fox this year, you wouldn't have 5 wins. And so the guy didn't have a good game. Again, I believe he's got an issue that he's dealing with. Not that he would be the only one in the NBA that's got some type of an injury, but the point is, how the hell can you get on Fox? I mean, the guy's been tremendous for the team this year.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, he didn't have his best game. That's all you can say to that. And Devin Booker has games that aren't very good either. And so does Jason Tatum and any of your top players. Doncic, right. I've seen him have some walkabouts. So I don't think he's quite 100%, but all you have to do is look at the numbers. His shooting percentages right across the board are outstanding, and the thing I've always believed in is scoring efficiency, which is kind of like points per shot kind of thing, and he's certainly, his numbers are winning numbers by a lot, and I mean, he's right there. So unless he has about 10 more games like he had the other night, sure, I wouldn't be concerned.
I've never really been around you when you've had a bad game, whether you were with me or whether you were coaching, even when you collapsed on the floor, in that game back in the 90s. I still,
that was a good game. We won.
I was going to say, I thought actually that was one of your better games,
Yeah, that's one of my better efforts.
Yeah, that was too bad you weren't around to see the finish. You know what I mean?
Well, I always remember telling Harold Presley he had a big shot to win the game against Portland. I told him, I said, man, I went to a lot of trouble to make you a hero. I can't be doing that all the time.
And I never got off the air with you where I go, boy, Jerry sucked tonight. He had a bad game. There were some nights where you maybe didn't have your A game, but I never thought you had a real bad game. You know what I mean, Jerry?
Well, I can't, looking back, it's one of those things. Obviously, the bad games I had, they've been erased from my memory.
Yes, they've been
It's
erased from your memory. Hey, with the
as
team
years go
sure though
by,
had a
we
lot of
just,
bad games though when we were working together.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So that game against Phoenix, I mean, it was winnable with a minute left. It's right there. Uh, this sport, this NBA is about superstars. And when a guy goes off like Booker, there's really nothing you can do. He just had one of those nights.
Yeah, I mean he's a great offensive player, and they need him without a Chris Paul available. They need him to do so much more. Certainly, he proved that he can. You always need his scoring, and I mean you saw early on. I thought that man, he was kind of getting to his spots.
Hmm.
He's so good in the mid range. He's got that natural lean to his jump shot. Always reminds me a lot of course, Kobe or the great ones. That Jerry West had that too. Just the natural lean that gives you a little extra space
Hmm.
between the defender. And Hito Turkoglu had that. I always thought
That's
that
right.
was one of it's just that's just something that can't be taught. I don't think it's just either there or it's not. But he, he's not very big really. I mean, he probably they call him 6'5". I'd say he'd be lucky if he's 6'4", but it doesn't make any difference. He can rise up over bigger people. And yeah, great game, and fun game to watch, as you pointed out. I mean, these guys. This is a fun team. I really have enjoyed them. I don't know yet exactly how good they are, but I know they're a lot better than we've seen
Right.
in years.
All right. So we always hear about what's the identity of a team. The identity of the Kings is pretty simple. Their identity is offense. And, if they're hitting on all cylinders, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. On the other hand, they do not defend enough, in my opinion, right now, to be taken seriously as an upper echelon team in the West. Now, I know a lot of teams can make that claim, but we've seen this through the first 19 games. On nights when the shots are not falling, particularly the three ball, the Kings don't have anything else they can fall back on yet, particularly on defense. And that to me is an issue.
Oh, it is. And, they're slightly better defensively than they were last year, but that's not saying a lot. That's not saying nearly enough. And still, we see too many straight line drives, things of that nature. And the rebounding is not overall real good. I mean, Sabonis does a remarkable job, but you really need more out of the 3 and 4 positions in particular on the
Mm-hmm.
board. So, if they can get that corrected and rebound a little better, to where you can limit people to one shot a little more often, uh, I think this team can, get a little better. But I agree with you. I mean, you're not going to be in the upper echelon, if you're 25th or 6th in the league in defense.
No. You just talked about rebounding, and I want to go back to Keegan Murray because offensively he's been struggling. I thought it was a little bit better against Phoenix, but he's got to get more. He's got to get more boards. I need to see that number increase based on the position he's playing. What do you think the issue is there?
Well, I think he needs to be more aggressive. That's for
Hmm.
sure. I thought the last game against Phoenix, in fact, is he had 10 or 11 rebounds. I think that was his high mark, which was encouraging a lot. But no, he's rebounding like a small forward, and he's not playing small forward. So for his minutes, he ought to be averaging 6 to 7 instead of about 3.8, I think it is. So that's a real concern. That concerns me more, quite honestly, than his shooting. I think that'll take care of itself. His stroke is too good, but he and Harrison Barnes both probably don't rebound well enough for their positions right now. I mean, Harrison's close enough as a small forward, but he could be a little better.
Yeah.
And then and I think that goes for with Metu and Lyles and Keegan. None of them are quite as efficient on the boards as they should be.
Jeff, you're talking about he's hit or miss with Fox. No Curry, no Morant, no Booker, no James, no Giannis, etc. I mean, you just mentioned the elite players pretty much in the league. Stop it with that, would you please? I don't understand that. And here's another fan. Jeff, have you been watching the games? Fox has taken over and is up there for clutch minutes. He has taken over games this year. Again, he's won games for Sacramento in the final few minutes. The Kings would not have 5 wins right now without Fox. And by the way, I've been very critical of Fox in the past. I really can't be critical of him this year. I think the guy's brought his A game almost every single night.
Oh, I'm the same way. I think I've been critical of him because I thought he was given a contract which ahead of schedule and really more than he deserved at the time, and being treated as if he was an all-star when he wasn't. But this year, I mean, he was Western Conference Player of the Week, for God's sakes.
Yes, he was last week.
And the leading scorer on a team that certainly is achieved more than any so-called expert expected from him. So, yeah, I think give the guy a good gracious.
I know.
Yeah, he
I
had
don't
an
get
off
it.
night. I've seen LeBron. LeBron was terrible against the Pacers the other
Yes, he
night.
was terrible.
Last time I checked, he's either the first or second or third best player in the history of the game.
Anita asked this question, Jerry. Are great rebounding teams also teams that get out and run? Can you be both, or do you need more team rebounding, which might slow the pace a bit?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, to me, if you rebound extremely well, that gives you a great advantage as far as running, because you rebound off runs. It's tougher to rebound off made baskets where you have to take it out, although the Kings do pretty well there as well. Having said that, but the other way you can make up for it is force turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And Kings are a little better this year than they've been. But the same thing holds true. If you can turn them over an extra 5 or 6 times to where they turn you over, that makes up for 5 rebounds right there. I mean, it's shot attempts, and so however you get them. I always remember coaching a small college team once that we were real small, and we never won the national championship and never out rebound anybody, but forced about 7 or 8 more turnovers a game. And so you can do it that way. And of course, I think my one criticism of Coach Brown might be that I kind of think they could full court press a little more, pick up with the depth they have at guard. And, especially I was hoping they would do more of that against Phoenix because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did not notice Chris Paul out there. And I think, without Chris Paul, I thought they, the few times we saw pressure, they seemed very vulnerable.
That's a great point. It's a great point. All right, let's get to who's coming into town tonight. Tyrese Halliburton. And I think that we need to put this to bed. And you mentioned this a moment ago. And you and I talked about this maybe last week, a few weeks ago. I've done several rants on this. We need to accept the fact that, and I don't have a crystal ball any more than you do. This has been not only a good trade, this has been a great trade that was made last February for both teams. The Kings have improved significantly. I also think Sabonis has increased Fox's production significantly. Halliburton, they love in Indiana. He's a double-double guy every night. He is the guy they're going to build their franchise around. Buddy has been good. So we just need to admit this right now, today, has been a great trade for both teams. When you watch Tyrese Halliburton play this year with Indiana, what do you think his biggest improvements have been with his game?
Well, I think just the fact that he knows it's his team to run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he always had kind of natural leadership kind of qualities, but he never probably got to quite, have that comfort zone here. And but there he does. He was brought in to be their guy. And I think Rick Carlisle, as you know, is an outstanding coach and is going to utilize players' talents very well, which he certainly has always done. And I think with Hallie, I mean, he knows it's his team to run, and he's doing just that. He knows every night that he's going to play 35 minutes. His assist to turnover ratio is just marvelous, over 4-1. That's the John Stockton, Magic Johnson type, Steve Nash kind of numbers, so he's just doing a marvelous job of running the team. And to me, that's, they brought him in to basically take the job of Malcolm Brogdon, who was very good. But I know, they felt that Malcolm had probably slipped a notch and had been injured a lot. And I think, obviously he's in a good spot because, he probably wouldn't be happy being a backup with the Pacers, but with the Celtics, he's very happy with that.
This says it all to me, and I'm very happy that you pointed this out. Halliburton is the ideal point guard. He just dished out 40 assists over 3 games. It was over 3 games with 0 turnovers. Amazing. Let me tell you something. When you're playing point guard in the NBA and you can have 40 assists and no turnovers, that is absolutely unbelievable. That to me is almost like you going and watching Peja make 47 straight threes in practice.
Yeah, it's to me that's Chris Paul has done some those type of things. I mean, but yeah, you're talking the elite when you can do that. So as a young point guard already, Hallie's already established that yeah, as a playmaker, he's among the elite and should be even get better. I mean, not that you can get better from with 0 turnovers. You don't expect that, but. Yeah, I tried to make a point of watching him a lot because I always liked
Yep.
him, and I like I say, I think getting Sabonis was great for the Kings as well because he does things that very few big men in this league can do, and so they're kind of special. They're both special different ways.
Mhm. You and I both know Buddy Hield, and I will tell you, without talking to Buddy about this, I absolutely will tell you that Buddy is a little miffed that nobody's talking about him being back in Sacramento tonight, that most of the focus has been on Sabonis and Halliburton, Halliburton, Sabonis, Sabonis, Halliburton. And Buddy very quietly also is playing well. Indiana is 12-8. Okay. Think about that for a minute. They're 12-8. And I know Buddy well enough. Buddy is going to come into this game tonight, and Buddy is going to try to have one of those Buddy games. So keep an eye on Buddy Hield tonight. Now, that can also work both ways, Jerry. You've seen this before where a guy overdoes it when he's going against his former team. We've seen guys just have dud games because of that. So, but I'm going to be actually keeping an eye on Buddy probably more than Halliburton because I pretty much know what Halliburton's going to do tonight. Buddy can either go way, way high or he can have one of those games where he's just overdoing it.
Yeah, well, Buddy's game is strictly it's making shots. And to me, I'd be surprised if he doesn't have one of those games like he had, his first couple of years in Sacramento when he was Buddy buckets, and and then of course things didn't go as well down the stretch, but yeah, he's a scorer, he's a shooter, and he knows this the arena. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have a strong game. He's going to
Yep.
want to. I think with Hallie, his game is his game. I mean, he may make shots to a high level, he may not, but he'll play real well because that's what he does.
How would you defend Tyrese Halliburton going into this game? I mean, he has been very consistent. Every game, his numbers are pretty much the same, and his team has won 12 of 20 games. Is there anything that you think Mike Brown might do and give him I don't want to say a look that he hasn't seen. He's seen all kinds of looks, but what do you think the approach will be?
You know, it, One thing I would do is like when they played the Pacers last year in Indiana. I thought Davion Mitchell just gave him fits. I mean, I know Davion doesn't start, but I would look for, and whether it's Fox or Davion, whoever's on him, really pick up and press. Put ball pressure on him. If you let him just get comfortable looking over the top of the defense, he's going to have a big night. And I mean, I'm not, and I think he'll have a good night regardless. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think that you need to work him and you need to pressure the ball. He's the guy that's going to make the play. So the idea of him crossing the center line without somebody in is really into him and trying to turn him once or twice before he gets there is to be a big mistake for the Kings.
All right. Luke Walton did not try to make Buddy a point guard playmaker, right? I mean, I don't know where you people come up with this stuff. Buddy's issue, particularly at the end of games, he did cough the ball up too much. All right. And he tried to do things that he was not capable of doing. As Jerry said, Buddy's best attribute, as we know, is shooting the basketball. That's what he does very well. And when Buddy's like a lot of players in the league, when he gets his game going offensively, he's very, very difficult to stop. You know, I mean, his shots are going to fall.
Yeah, he's a great shooter if he gets good shots. I thought the last year or so with the Kings, and I've said it many times, and uh, I think is the case where Dave Yeager, I thought, he and Buddy would ram heads a little bit,
Yes,
but Dave just wasn't going to allow him to do much with the ball except shoot it.
that's correct.
I always said, he'd get him the ball in scoring range with a live dribble, and I think with Luke, really thought that maybe or allowed Buddy to try to play with the ball more, and it just didn't work out. I always said it. Buddy was a little bit like Mitch Richmond. Of course, Mitch was a lot better,
Mitch
but
was
Mitch
better.
wasn't great with the ball. But
He was
but you
better.
getting the ball with a live dribble in scoring range. Mitch was great, But after two dribbles, things got worse, and that's the way Buddy was and is. And I think that's why it worked so well in Indiana for him, is because he's not dribbling a lot.
No,
Tyrese Halliburton is taking care of that. So that's
and
why
in all
Buddy's
fairness,
got a value around the league too.
and in all fairness, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton's a different player than De'Aaron Fox, and Tyrese Halliburton is a better playmaker than Fox in terms of passing and setting up his teammates. So I actually think this has been, a better fit. And yes, I'm well aware that Buddy and Tyrese were on the same team for a while, but to me, with Tyrese now being the lead guard, and as you said, Jerry, knows that he's that guy, and the way he distributes the ball, I think, has been perfect for Buddy Hield. I really do.
Oh, I do too. I mean, he's reestablished value in the league, which he had kind of lost, and so credit to maybe him taking that role. And I'm pretty sure that the Pacers would probably still like to trade him because they have so many young guards that are there with Mathura and the rookies, terrific. Maybe the best rookie in the league, or at this stage, I don't know how that'll play out. But Duarte from last year, they've got enough of those guys, and Buddy, and I do think that Buddy has reestablished value. So probably he might be a guy that will fit somewhere else even better. But he has it's worked for him.
As far as the Pacers having half their wins against the worst teams in the league, it doesn't matter. Every team in the league plays the same teams, okay? So, in the East, you're going to play teams in the East more than in the West. You only play teams in the other conference twice, but that's a bunch of crap. All right, the Pacers have played 20 games, so don't talk to me about their schedule. They're 12-8, okay? They're 12-8. They played 20 games. They've had tough games. They beat really good teams this year, okay? You beat the teams that are on your schedule. Conversely, the Kings are 10-9, and the Kings have had wins against a lot of bad teams too, and they beat good teams. So, I don't really, that stuff doesn't resonate with me. It really doesn't.
No, it's too far to go. And like you say, okay, they are who they are. The record says that. They'll both have stretches where they've got a favorable schedule, and they'll both have stretches where they have a really tough schedule. And they'll come at different times. So, there's things, like I say, other than the wins and losses, the thing to look at is a margin of victory. That tells you, what level of power a team has got. And the Kings are right now playing at a level that's slightly above the record, really. So, which I think is positive.
Yep. Let's talk about Sabonis. When you coached, or when you were around players, did you feel when you were going against your former team for the first time that it was more of a big deal when you were in the other team's gym? In other words, tonight, Buddy's coming back, Tyrese is coming back. It's got a whole different feel than when the Kings go to Indiana. Did you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt the players feel that way, especially if they've been somewhere a number of years. I mean, so absolutely, I think both players, both Buddy and Hallie, have, they put a check mark on the schedule. They know that, and now Sabonis didn't play in Indy last year, and when he goes back to Indianapolis, I guarantee that'll mean a lot to him. He had some great years there, and played on playoff teams and All-Star and all that stuff. So yeah, it goes both ways, but definitely you're exactly right. I mean, it's always going back to the former home.
All right, this question, they want you to explain the difference between Sabonis's game and Vladdy's game.
Well, I'd say this: Sabonis is quite a bit more mobile. Now he's
Hmm.
not as big and strong, but he is a far mobile. He runs the floor so much better. And you notice, I mean, Vladi set great screens. I mean, Sabonis probably sets 3 times as many screens as any other big in the league. I mean, and he sets them well. Uh, his skills, his passing skills are close. I think Vladi might be a little better, but I think his passing skills are close. They're neither one consistent outside shooters. Vladi's, I just think probably if I were really to compare Sabonis, I'd say he's kind of in the middle of Weber and Vladi. I think he's a better all around player than Vladi, to be honest, and I don't think he's quite the talent of Weber. But he's, all I know is, the guy gets 17, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and his points per shot is about 1.6, which is only a little better than Michael Jordan's was. So you're talking about a hugely productive player.
Well, as you always used to say about John Barry, if you missed a free throw in the Barry family, you were kicked away from the dinner table. I mean, if you grow up with Arvydas Sabonis as your dad, you're probably going to pass the ball pretty well. That's probably a
Yeah,
trait that you have to have. I mean,
and,
a lot of
and
people on the stream don't know anything about Arvydas Sabonis. They never saw Arvydas play. You and I had the pleasure of watching him after he did come over to the NBA, and everyone used to tell me, you haven't seen anything. He was a much better passer over in Europe and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, to this day, don't most people consider him in the top 2 or 3 passing big men of all time?
well, I think not just that, but when he was young and healthy, I think most people would have put him in the top 2 or 3 big men, period,
Oh, wow.
all
Wow.
around.
Really?
Oh, oh my God, he's like a giant Walton,
Uh-huh.
a giant healthy Bill Walton in his prime. I mean,
That's
and
saying
that's
something.
certainly, that was before he came over to this country, but just seeing him against international competition and top Americans, and there's nobody that played at that time wouldn't say he had been, you know, could make the case for the best. I mean, right there with Jabbar or any of them. Uh, Unbelievable, big, massive guy that could, a 2 or 3 inch taller version of Lottie that could shoot much better and pass better too, really.
Jerry, let's talk about some other teams in the West, and I want to start with Dallas. They've been hovering right around the 500 mark. I think right now they're a game under 500. They just beat the Warriors last night. Has the loss of Brunson really affected them? I know he's a good player, and I know it's affected him. But is that, in your opinion, the reason why Dallas right now is hovering around just getting into the playoffs in the West?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, he was their second best player. Now they've added some pieces, and I think they'll probably sort it out. Actually, I think they are 500 now. That game got them back to
Okay.
500, 10-10. But they won 51 games last year, and I think Brunson was a huge part of it. He's as he's proven with New York. I mean, he's an excellent starting point guard. So they're trying to do it a little different. With Tim Hardaway Jr.'s back, and they got a couple other players, but I think the problem they've got is that when Luka sets down, they just can't play the same way or at the same level, and I don't know if they can sort it out enough to get to the same level at all. I mean, I just don't think Brunson was the second best player they had, and they've tried to replace their second best player with some fourth and fifth best players.
Well, the other issue with Dallas is they're normally very aggressive at the trade deadline. It seems like every year they're Mark Cuban and that organization. And I know it's only the last day of November, and there's a long way to go before the trade deadline. But Dallas is one of those teams that always seems to figure out a way to get a player that can really help them. So we'll see where they're at come February. But all right, here's another team, Minnesota, and we saw Karl Anthony Towns go down the other night with a calf strain. At first, everyone thought it was Achilles. They're also a team. We wanted to know how Rudy Gobert would fit in. They've been right around the 500 mark, and they have been disappointing this year. What do you see with them?
Well, I have to say, when they made the trade, I wasn't sure it's going to work. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things that that years ago, you could win with Twin Towers, but the game today is pretty different. Uh, and the plus you get with Gobert, he's terrific at protecting the basket. The ultimate shot blocker, rim protector, so to speak. But he also blocks the rim for your offensive players. Anthony Edwards hadn't been nearly as good. Carl Anthony Towns hadn't been nearly as good, and I think that's part of it. So it's one of those things that, yeah, it's like the old thing. You add something to it. Well, sometimes it's not all pluses. There's minuses that come with it. And of course, I always think, I know our fans, and they're right. You'd like to have a shot blocker and a rim protector, but there's a cost for that more than you might think sometimes. And I always say that the team that won the world championship last year didn't have one. The Golden State Warriors.
Good point.
So,
there
is
Steph
that.
Curry, though. They did have Steph Curry, though.
Well, he fills the net up. I'll tell you that. I mean, in a way,
Right.
well, that's right. I mean, and that's one, and that's really kind of the way the Kings are trying to be. They don't have Curry, but the roster. When you look, I mean, the bench is certainly better than the Warriors bench. Of course, it wasn't better than the Warriors bench last year. That's something I think that is showing up too. That some of the Damian Lee and Belicia and Otto Porter, those guys were pretty important to him.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think the Blazers and the Jazz will be in the top 8 in April? Both of them have, I guess, come back down to earth and are falling quickly in the Western Conference standings. I would say, at least in Portland's case, they've got a couple of significant players not in the lineup right now, and one being Damian Lillard. So I will say right now, on the last day of November, no, those teams will not be in the top 8. I'm surprised at the Jazz falling as quickly as they have, because just watching them play and seeing the teams that they were winning against in the first 3 weeks or so of the season, it was like, wow,
Yeah, the one thing I will say about the Jazz, and I don't think they will either, be honest with you, I think Portland has the best chance because of Lillard, being healthy, because they've won without Lillard. And I mean, Grant has been terrific, Simmons. I think they have a chance to stick in the top 8, but I'm not sure about the Jazz. But I'll say this for the Jazz. I think they've played by far the most road games of anybody.
Yes, they have.
And so don't ever discount that.
Yeah.
So, when you see a team that is over 500 and they played far more than half their games on the road, maybe, they're pretty good, but I would just be surprised if they can stay in the top 8.
Tonight's game, you expect to be a shootout, more of a high-scoring game, and we know about the Kings' offense, the way Indiana likes to play as well. You think this is let me ask the question this way. Do you think 120 wins the game tonight? First team to score 120. You think if that wins the game?
I do. I think 120 will win it, but I think you better have 120. The idea that maybe you could win with 108 or something, I don't believe that's going to happen. Neither team plays very good defense. They both like to get out and run and shoot the 3 ball, in transition. And it's something both teams depend on, not that you oversimplify things, but probably the team that shoots the 3 ball the best is probably going to win.
Yeah. What about this matchup? Sea-Dog says, we haven't really talked about other players on these rosters, and I that's a really interesting question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Mathurin certainly has been more productive and the better rookie thus far. I think he's going to be terrific. He's super athletic and can shoot the deep ball already, and that's really kind of why buddies are going to be available. I think they, there's just no way they're not going to have to put him in the starting lineup. I think he's physically a little more mature than most, but I mean, he's been better than Jabari Smith or certainly Ivy or Keegan or a lot of guys. Now, I know just like you do, and I think the fans have got to keep in mind, don't ever make a judgment on rookies' careers in 20 games.
No.
Things change. I mean, if you'd done that, you wouldn't have had Steph Curry being an all-time great, or Steve Nash being an all-time great, or Gary Payton, because or John Stockton didn't play hardly at all his rookie year.
Yep.
So if you want to do that, you'll have to eat your words a lot. So, uh, you know, I'm pretty sure Matherin's going to be good. I'm pretty sure Jabari Smith's going to be good. Just don't know how it's all going to play out. But, I think used to be, you'd always give guys 3 years, and I think you still have to do that even though they're younger. But I don't know that you need more than that, because in 3 years, either they're getting better or they're not. And if they're not, it's probably not going to work.
I'll be on tonight on Listen app right after the game. It's easy to download if you don't have it. So again, that's going to be tonight right after the game on Listen app. So 3-game losing streak for the Kings, and Indiana coming off a buzzer beater against the Lakers. All right, I'll ask you this. Do you think tonight's game is going to be close? Do you think with 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left, the game's up for grabs?
Yes. I can't see either team, and what little, I've watched the Kings a lot, and I've tried to watch the Pacers quite a bit, but I just don't think either team can get away from the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're a lot alike, really. And both teams have good benches, and they have guys that they can go to the bench and get better. Certainly with the Kings, with Monk, Matherin. For the Pacers, I mean, they got guys that can come in and might be the best players on the floor that night. I mean, then they don't start. So that always makes it interesting.
How about Jacob? Says he's going to his first game tonight. Wish you guys were there. Jacob, we hope you have a fabulous time. I'd be curious to know, how old are you, Jacob? That's pretty cool. You're going to your first game tonight. I hope it's a good one for you, a memorable one, and I hope you have a great time. That's awesome. Jerry's been to a couple games before,
I sure have. I've been to a lot of practices, and quite honestly, if I never see another 3-on-2 break, I'll be very happy in life.
Glad you're feeling better, Jerry. Go Kings. Yeah, I mean, Jerry's Sprite. Look at him. Jerry, you look like you're about 60 years old today, man. Your health, everything. You're just unbelievable.
I feel good,
Yeah, right.
Right. I went through it to where I didn't feel so good, but it's but no, I'm really excited about tonight's game. I texted Larry Bird about it. I said, game of the year, and he wrote back, "Yeah, might be." And then I texted back. I said, "Sadly, it really might be." So, you sure don't want the 20th game of the year as the game of the year, but we're all pretty excited just to see it. And, I always say I always, with the trade kind of stuff, it goes back to me. It's like both teams came out, got what they needed, and they're happy. It's a little bit like trading Jason Williams for Mike Bibby. Well, it worked out great for both. I mean, Jay Will was a starting player on a world champ, and Bibby made the team a little better. Doug Christie for Corliss Williamson. Corliss, people forget, was a 6th man of the year on a world champ. You don't get good players without giving up good players.
Jerry, a lot of people are just in shock right now to hear that you actually texted somebody and you know how to do that on your phone. So I think that's been the most impressive thing from your little conversation with Larry Bird via text. I'm impressed too, Jerry.
Well, let me tell you something. That is exactly what I do on my phone. I talk on it and I text on it. And that's it. I don't need anything else.
Hey, Jerry, enjoy the game tonight. We'll look forward to chatting with you next week. And thanks very much.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. We'll have a lot to talk about next week.
Yes,
Take care.
Will. All right. Holy moly, Jim Bob Bully. Is there anyone better than that man, Jerry Reynolds? Hey, before we get to Ryan in Sacktown, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. They are awesome. New Works has a fix for you. Call the number on your screen or go to sackserviceplumbing.com. And again, don't forget, right after the game tonight, I will be over on Listen app. But right now, we bring in Ryan in Sacktown. Holy moly, Jim Bob Bully. There's only one of those, right? He's the best. But I'm sorry you got to follow Jerry on every Wednesday. I don't know how the hell anyone could do that. I really don't.
No worries, no worries. I guess he found the fountain of youth is full of leaves. That's the secret to it. So, good for him. So how you doing, Grant?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's going to be fun tonight. There's a lot of things going on in the game tonight. I just think, Halliburton and Hield are really going to want to put on a show. I think Tyrese will have his steady game. Buddy to me is either going to go one or two ways. I know Buddy's competitiveness. I know what this means for Buddy. Buddy is going to come in and try to get it going early. And Buddy's either going to we're going to be talking about this tomorrow or after the game tonight on Listen App, that Buddy went off. Oh my God, Buddy torched the Kings, or Buddy was terrible. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground for Buddy Hield. I really don't.
I don't see a middle ground either. It's either he goes off or it's thank goodness he's out of town. I think that Buddy, he's going to just probably push it a little bit too hard, Grant. And that's kind of been his MO. And for the Kings' sake, hopefully he does that, which will lead to long rebounds. So rebounding will be important.
Buddy has been through this before when he was traded from New Orleans to Sacramento. But going back to New Orleans is a hell of a lot different than coming back to Sacramento, because nobody goes to the New Orleans games and nobody really cares. So it's a whole different atmosphere here. But it's going to be fun tonight. And Tyrese Halliburton is the real deal right now for Indiana. You talked about this last week when he was, given the honor of Eastern Conference Player of the Week. I think he'll have a steady game. He'll be good. I don't know about Fox yet because I don't think he's 100%. So let's see how De'Aaron Fox does. I will tell you one thing about Fox. He's heard the complaints and the criticism from the game the other night, and I guarantee you that Fox has been stewing and is not happy with it. Look for De'Aaron Fox if he is physically able to have a big game tonight.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big bounce back game. And, we're going to hear the talk, if it is a bounce back game, that, we made the right trade, right? And
oh boy,
Fox is back to normal. But yeah, I think he bounces back. As Jerry mentioned, the Pacers defense really is not that great. They have trouble losing their men when they're rotating. They don't rotate well. So also that opens up the opportunity for De'Aaron to drive the lane and kick out. And so look for that three ball to hopefully start falling with Kevin Huerter and the rest of the guys, because that could be a huge component of the game as well.
All right. So when the starting lineups are introduced, what do you think the reaction is going to be? Let's start with Buddy Hield. Mixed?
I think Buddy will be mixed. I think Tyrese will get cheered.
Okay. Interesting. And then when the game starts, you don't think they'll be booed when they have the ball like Marvin Bagley was, correct?
No, I don't see any reason. I mean, you might have a few hardcores that are booing Buddy just because of the bad plays that he would make from time to time, but it's not a Marvin Bagley situation by any means.
Last game of November. Hard to believe that we're already turning the calendar into December. And if you missed my rant today, check it out. You don't want to miss today's rant, all right? Because I talked about everything today. I talked about it all in my rant today.
Got it off your chest, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then tonight, right after the game, Listen App. I hope you can join me. It's very easy to download, whether you have Apple, whether you're on Android, whatever the case may be, and we'll have a lot of fun. That is coming up tonight, right after the game. Figure it about 9:20. Someone says Halliburton will probably get a standing ovation. I would think he probably would, but there are a lot of fans that also are not happy with some of the comments that he's made about Sacramento recently. So who knows? Let's see where it goes,
Yeah, and Tyrese has said multiple times that his comments were taken out of context with that, and I think Sacramento fans are reasonable, so I think he will be cheered. And, think about how much he loved this city for the short amount of time he was in it, and Kings fans appreciate that.
Yep. All right, so tonight, Kings, Pacers. I'll be on Listen Up right after the game. Looking forward to that. Rhino, man, going to be fun tonight. I hope you enjoy the game. Should be fun. I hope you're able to call in tonight on the post-game show. We can talk about that, and we'll see whether the Kings can snap their brief 3-game losing streak. And that's another thing. You look at the standings in the West, man, you're really right now one game from falling all the way to 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these games are all important.
Very, very important. And, it's very possible the West stays like this the entire year where, a game or two will take you from 6 to 9. So let's go out, get this one. I think it's going to be an emotionally charged building. I think there's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of shooting, and it's going to be a close game. But I think the Kings eventually come out on top.
And for those of you watching, do me a favor, just take a time and hit the like button, a thumbs up. Also, if you have not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Well, I would really appreciate that. All right, good stuff, Ron. Talk to you a little bit later, buddy.
Cool. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you. All right. Good show with Jerry today. I'm getting ready to do my show right over on Listen App. So enjoy the game tonight and hope that you can join me on the post game over on Listen App. Always great when you can join me right here if you don't like that with Grant Napier. So long, everybody.